This is the New Orleans attacker embarking on his suicide mission, seemingly calm as he packs an Islamic State flag in the back of his rented truck. Shamsuddin Jabbar had a well-paid job at the consultancy firm Deloitte's after a military career as an IT specialist. But the Muslim convert had withdrawn to this trailer home in Texas, heavily in debt and after 3 failed marriages. In New Orleans, he set light to the apartment he'd rented, apparently to destroy the bomb-making chemicals inside. With the fire lit in the hallway, he set off towards his target. En route, he used his phone to record videos about killing unbelievers. His family said later that he strongly disapproved of alcohol and parties, which is presumably why he headed towards the New Year's fireworks. Jabbar drove at speed through crowds of revellers, killing 14 of them, before police shot him dead. Another 8 of his victims are still in intensive care.
I got at least maybe 12 to 15 people hit by this vehicle.
Edward Pettifor from London was among those killed. While asking for privacy, his family said, "We will all miss him terribly. Our thoughts are with the other families who have lost their family members due to this terrible attack." The victim was the stepson of Prince William's nanny. The prince said he was shocked and sent the family his prayers. King Charles has also been in touch with Mr. Pettifor's relatives. Matthew Tenedorio worked at the city's Superdome Stadium. His brothers say they're struggling to come to terms with their loss.
I just don't believe any of this. You know, it's still shock. It's just so fresh. I haven't really had the chance to process it yet.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for him to come home. His dog is sitting there at the back door, just waiting.
And on Bourbon Street, where it happened, an act of remembrance. In the city they call the Big Easy, where the security barriers didn't work because they were being repaired. Nothing easy about losing loved ones like Reggie Hunter, suddenly gone.
It's devastating. This is my child's father, and my son's 11 years old. So it's devastating to come and see what someone would do to other people, and they don't deserve it.
This a mostly young crowd, believing that their futures were ahead of them, as they celebrated on the first night of the year.
Jonathan Rugland reporting. Now, Donald Trump has hit out angrily after a judge ordered that he be sentenced on January the 10th in his New York hush money case. Justice Juan Merchan signalled that he would not sentence the US president-elect to prison, probation or a fine, giving him an unconditional discharge instead. But posting on social media, Mr. Trump dismissed the order as an illegitimate political attack, which goes against the Constitution. He was convicted in May of 34 counts of falsifying business records over a payment to the adult film star Stormy Daniels. Well, joining me now from Philadelphia is William Brennan, a lawyer who defended Donald Trump during his second impeachment trial. Bill Brennan, thanks very much for being with us. Appreciate it. This is literally a get-out-of-jail card, isn't it, for Donald Trump?
Well, we must remember the unique circumstances of the situation. We have a man who was a former president of the United States who went on trial as a citizen, as you know, we all must do if we're charged. And during that trial, it came out that certain evidence was admitted to that jury while President Trump was the president. And then almost simultaneously to the trial, the United States Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling outlining the rules of presidential immunity. And they said, basically, anything you do while you're president, you are totally immune. If you do it while you're acting in, a private capacity, you're not immune. And if it's in between, then it's a rebuttable presumption that you're immune. So,
but you see, forgive me for interrupting, but that's what we over here find incredible. I mean, help us in our ignorance here, Bill. We think, we have a phrase, you probably heard it, you do the crime, you do the time. It doesn't matter if you're a president, that's a mere detail. You have to face judgment.
Well, it does, according to the United States Supreme Court. We only have one president at a time. hopefully for a full 4-year term. And during that time, the United States Supreme Court said that the job is so important that the individual, he or she who occupies that office, is immune from criminal prosecution if they're performing presidential action. You must remember, in the case with Judge Merchan, testimony went before that jury where Hope Hicks, a presidential aide, testified about things that happened while President Trump was the president. So, Judge, it's kind of like putting ink in the milk. Like, how do you get it out? You know, Judge Merchan apparently didn't find the defense lawyer's arguments persuasive, but I frankly think, and I've spent a lot of time with Judge Merchan trying a case in that very courtroom, a couple of months, as a matter of fact. A lot of respect for him, but I frankly think he got it wrong here.
Okay, well, we'll let that one go. We'll let that one go. Lawyers are always going to disagree, and as do journalists. That's how it should be. I want to move on to Donald Trump himself. What do you, as a lawyer, make of what he's been saying about prosecuting his political enemies? Is that right and proper?
Well, I think that his statements were taken out of context in many ways. If anything, if we look at the last 4 to 8 years, he's been the recipient of this lawfare mentality. I believe that President Trump will enter his second term realizing that he has this unique chance in history to do all the things he didn't get a chance to do if it was a consecutive second term. And I don't think he's going to focus on issues like that. I do think, though, that it is time on both sides for a cleanup and a clean out of using criminal cases and civil cases, but primarily criminal, to achieve political agendas.
Right,
We've
Bill, I want to just leap in there very briefly, if I may. Very briefly, I was running short of time. Got to get you on Elon Musk. Should President-elect Donald Trump rein him in over his criticisms, not least of the British jury system, legal system, and indeed our Prime Minister?
Well, I mean, I think that Mr. Musk is a private individual. He has the right to make his statements. President Trump certainly is not bashful about taking charge. And if we get to a stage where Mr. Musk or anybody would say things in conflict with the president's position, he's not shy. He'll take care of it. But I think we're looking forward to an exciting 4 years. And I think there's a lot of work to be done. And I, with all the respect I have for Judge Merchan, this case should have been tossed.
Okay, Bill Brennan, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, the long goodbye to the former US President Jimmy Carter has begun in his home state of Georgia. His body was carried through his hometown of Plains, stopping at the family farm where the old farm bell rang 39 times to honor his role as 39th president. Families lined the streets as his 4 children, many grandchildren and great-grandchildren accompanied the casket, which also stopped outside his boyhood home. The procession is now on its way to Atlanta for a ceremony at the Carter Presidential Center. Next week, the body will be flown to Washington, D.C., where he will lie in state before a state funeral at the National Cathedral on Thursday, which President Joe Biden has declared a national day of mourning. He's also called on Americans to assemble in their respective places of worship to pay homage. Jimmy Carter died at home last week, aged 100.